My countrymen, once again, this is Eli Velis Pamatong, President of the Republic of the Philippines. And tonight I have come to share with you very important issues concerning the Philippines and to a certain extent a part of the world community. My main topic or the topics that I'm going to discuss with you revolves around the meaning of ignorance. We are only as good as what we know. We cannot be better than we don't know. And the summary of that is at the heart of the Satanic Bible, unfortunately. The Holy Bible says in Hosea 4:6, my nation was destroyed for lack of knowledge. Bumagsak ang bansa ko dahil sa kakulang ng kaalaman. Whereas Matthew 5:48 says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, because if you are perfect, then you will reach the apex or the summit of success. So human destiny can be calibrated by these two provisions in the Bible, Hosea 4:6 and Matthew 5:40. You are only as good as what you know. You can never be better than what you don't know. And your destiny revolves around mainly about three things: your knowledge, which is what you know; wisdom, the best of what you know; and ignorance, what you don't know. All right, that is what's going on here. If you don't know, well, of course, that's the end of you. And many things have caused miseries on the part of people's lives because of what they don't know. For instance, the history of France revolves to a certain extent upon what Napoleon did not know, or his drummer boy did not know. I learned from the movie, I don't know if these are factually, historically true, that the defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo, Waterloo is located in Belgium. The defeat of Napoleon to the Duke of Wellington and his allies was caused by what Napoleon's people did not know. When the main force, the central force of Napoleon, launched an attack against the Duke of Wellington, who chose the place where they should fight in the first place, because the Duke of Wellington chose the place where Napoleon will be at a disadvantage. And when the drummer boy of Napoleon beat forward to attack the central force of Napoleon, they hit a muddy place. And that's why Napoleon ordered his people to retreat, the center force in the attack. Mainly the war is like a crab. We have this pincer attack. One from the right, one from the left, and one at the center. The center goes forward, and if the enemy counters attack to the forward flank, the forward flank withdraws, and then the enemy follows, followed by the left and the right flanks closing in like a pincer. It's a pincer strategy. Usually the strategy of war is pincer, like a crab. When you enter, the two pincers of the crab close in and crush you. Now the drummer boy ordered the attack, and Napoleon realized that his soldiers were crossing a muddy place, and that was making it very difficult for them. So he ordered withdrawal. according to the movie that I saw, the drummer boy, this is a typical picture of a drummer boy, French drummer boy, did not know how to beat the retreat. That's very unfortunate because in the 72 battles that preceded the war at Waterloo, Napoleon won 72 battles in a row. He would never lost a war. 72 battles. The lands or the soil in Europe trembled under the hooves of Napoleon's thousands of horses. And he won 72 straight battles. This time, he could have won, according to the movie, but the drummer boy did not know how to beat retreat. He was used to beating forward. They never lost. And their drummer boys usually are at the age of 12, 13, 14. Young boys, like what I showed you, this one, a young boy. I don't know why they were using young boys to use the drum. And ignorance about ignorance on the part of the drummer boy to beat the retreat, I think was one of the causes of the war at Waterloo. Yeah, Waterloo. It's pronounced as Waterloo. So again, you are only as good as what you know. You cannot be better than what you don't know. But having said that, I will go back to that point repeatedly in the next few minutes. Let me first make comments on what I heard about the remarks of people that Duterte died already. Duterte has been rumored to have died several times. Each time it turned out to be false. Well, I heard that Duterte died. I hope he really died. This time, I hope he will die because I think 99.99 of our people are praying he will die. He should die. But let's wait. I don't know if he's dead, but I hope he's dead. On the other hand, I would like to make a remark on what this beautiful old lady, she is as old as myself, Hillary Clinton, they pronounce it Clinton. He made a comment which touched me deeply. I thought the Americans have forgotten the Philippines in the midst of this crisis. She said, Hillary said, what did she say? The Philippines might become a subject of China. She's afraid, Hillary. This was her picture when she was younger. Now, this is her picture now. Hillary. I think she's above 70 years old. I thank Hillary deeply for this comment. It means she's concerned about the Philippines. Yeah, it could fall into the hands of the communists. We can lose the Philippines forever. And I thank you most sincerely, Hillary, for that concern about my country. Well, now let me go back to what you know, what you don't know, and the best of what you know. Knowledge is the sum total of what you know. Wisdom is the best of what you know, the choice of the best alternatives that you know, whereas ignorance is what you don't know, right? And if you survey or review all the problems of mankind since the dawn of civilization up to this point, you will realize that everything depended on what people know and what people don't know. Sufferings, all human sufferings are caused by ignorance. You suffer because you don't know the solution. The present problems of the world are caused by ignorance, failure to know what should be done. That is caused by ignorance. The inability to forecast a coming storm that can cause problems, like what happened in Japan, when a very high tsunami devoured a part of Japan, devoured a part of Japan. Your joys, happiness, pleasure, defeats, they are all calibrated by what you know and what you don't know. Recently, it was not recently, it was kind of many years ago, a Japanese by the name of, by the name of that guy, Hiro Munada. Hiro Munada. Here. He hit the headlines worldwide, especially in the Philippines. Hiro fought for 39 years after the war between America and Japan was concluded. He fought for 39 years to 40 years. He did not know that the war ended. And so he suffered for 39 years because of ignorance. He didn't know that the war ended, and lately, and after that, he surrendered to Marcos. And of course, he returned to Japan a hero. At first, he refused to surrender, even if he was told that the war ended. He said, "You have to bring my commander here and order me to stop, and I will stop." So they had to bring his former commander to the place here in the Philippines where he was hiding. And his commander ordered him to stop, and he surrendered to the Philippine authorities. That's Hiro Onada. Well, again, his suffering was determined by or caused by his ignorance. And so the Napoleon's knowledge of warfare brought him to the height of fame and victory. 72 battles, he won 72 wars because of knowledge. He was able to apply the best of what he knows in every combat that he faced in Europe. One day, ignorance caused the downfall of Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. Yes, there is no debate about that. That is why I have been advocating for free education for all for life, free medicine for all for life, but especially education, because I know that what makes a nation great depends on the education or the educational background of that nation. Educated people are usually progressive. Israel, Singapore, you can cite 100 countries that are progressive, they are all educated. Most of their people are educated. But countries where people are suffering, most of the people there are ignorant. Yun ang nangyayari. And so much suffering has been caused by ignorance. 16 million ignorant people reportedly elected an insane person like Duterte. 16 million ignorant people. And because of the ignorance of these people, they elected Duterte, of course, illegally, because Duterte ran without a COC. He was disqualified even if he was elected. But even if he was elected, I don't think he was, but even if he was elected by 16 million, the 16 million people were all ignorant. If they know that Duterte is insane or was insane, they would not have elected him. If they knew that Duterte killed 1,700, they would not have elected him. But they don't know. They didn't know. If they knew that Duterte would beat the Duterte today, they will not even look at him. But ignorance again, the destiny of the people of the Philippines and the world revolves around ignorance or knowledge. Exodus 22:18. That verse which says, "You shall not suffer a sorcerer to live." Sorcerer means witch, yung aswang. And because of that one simple sentence at Exodus text 22:18, about 100 million people died in Europe. And about 30 million died in the hands of Martin Luther. We didn't know that there is no such thing as a witch. But the Bible says there is a witch. And nobody has seen a witch. But because of that false information, lack of knowledge about the presence of a witch, 100 million died, right? So again, you can go around and look at every person who is suffering. You know the cause of that suffering is ignorance. You can go around the world and look at a nation that is very poor. You know that that nation uh, is the poverty of that nation is caused by ignorance. Kaya na ako, I have been advocating for free education for all for life. That is the only road or blueprint or roadmap to the future of mankind, what mankind knows. And that coincides with what Matthew 5:14 says. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Because if you are not perfect, you would fall under Hosea 4:6, which says, nalaglag ang bansa ko dahil sa kakulang ng kalaman. My nation was destroyed because of lack of knowledge. It revolves around these two texts or verses in the Bible. Yun, ang nangyari. Exodus 22:18 caused the death of more than 100 million. John 19:27 caused the death of 6 million or more. Because Luke 19:27 says, you kill the person that does not believe in me. That is what Christ reportedly said. You kill the person who does not believe in me. And so Hitler, who was a believer in Christ, killed 6 million Jews because the Jews does not believe in Christ. Many false information can cause the death of millions. And death is caused also by ignorance. They didn't know that Christ never said, you kill those who don't believe. The Bible was written 40 years after Christ was allegedly killed. 40 years. Who could remember what Christ said? And this Exodus 22:18, if they knew that there is no such thing as witchcraft or a witch, or the 100 million would that still be. I mean, their offsprings would still be alive today. And that's what's very unfortunate. Why am I not being supported by the armed forces right now? Let's go to your story, myself. Because they didn't know that I am the true you who are listening to me. You don't know that truly I am the president of the Philippines. Because if you know I am the president of the Philippines, your problem will be solved. I know how to do that. I have the roadmap for the future of the Philippines, for rebuilding the Philippines from the ashes of ignorance. I have that. But you don't know. If you only know that truly I am the president of the Philippines, you will never follow that insane person in Davao. Up to now, no matter what I tell you, most of you will not believe I am the president. How could I be president when I was not elected? But you don't know that under the Constitution, you can be president without being elected. You can be. If you read that very well, you can. There have been people who became president without being elected. Like Coria Aquino, she was not elected. Carlos Pregancia, she was not elected. Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, she was not elected. But you don't know, you don't bother to read. Anyway, that's the reason why I am not getting much support from the armed forces and the people. They don't know that truly, yours truly is the true president of the Republic of the Philippines. Now, how about the claim at West Philippine Sea? Why is it very difficult for us to assert our claim at the West Philippine Sea? Why? Oh, because we don't know. We don't know. We don't know the facts. If we know the facts, then it would be easy. Even China itself, China does not know. Don't you know? And don't laugh, because it's true that we were part conquerors during the Second World War. That China is partly a conquered territory of the Philippines. China is partly a conquered territory of the Philippines. And we can claim ownership over half of China. Oh, it's funny, right? But let me tell you why. In 1936, MacArthur was hired by the Philippine government to be its field marshal, like a commander-in-chief, to build the Philippine Army. He was paid $500,000. Now, if you are paid and as an employee, you are under your employer. And if as an employee, you win something, that is the victory of the employer, right? So during the war, Even when MacArthur escaped to Australia to rebuild his forces in Australia, during the war, uh, MacArthur remained an employee of the Philippines, and the Philippines was the employer of MacArthur. So therefore, if MacArthur conquered the whole of East Asia together with the Allies, but he was the main conqueror, they say, the conquest of MacArthur, the conquered territory of MacArthur was partly a conquered territory of the Philippines because we were also the employer of MacArthur. It's true. You check the internet. Maybe you think I'm joking. MacArthur was an employee of the Philippine government, and therefore, because the Philippine government was the employer, the conquered territory of MacArthur was a conquered territory of the Philippine government as well, right? Theoretically, that's true. But you know what? Might be good in theory, may not be practical. Because even if China knows that the mainland of China or the whole of China was partly a conquered territory of the Filipino people, China will never accept that. They will never accept that. It's not practical, but in theory, we own half of China. And there will be no problem with the West Philippine Sea because the West Philippine Sea actually is a part of South China Sea. And since we were conquerors of that area, that's partly a conquered territory, we can claim full total ownership of that area, the West Philippine Sea. Unfortunately, the Filipinos did not know. I mean, those that represented the Philippines at the Treaty of San Francisco ceremony, the persons or the lawyers who represented the Philippines at the hearing before the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague in Netherlands, they didn't know. They were ignorant. Hilbey is one of them. Kalida is one of them. Hardilisa is one of them. They didn't know. So since they were not able to invoke the fact that the Philippines won during the Second World War with America, and therefore half of the conquered territory belonged to the Filipino people. And we can invoke that now. Why? Because we were not treated as co-partners in the negotiation of the Treaty of San Francisco. We were just considered mere delegates, and our delegates were in fact stupid. They didn't say anything. On behalf of the Filipino people and as true president of the Philippines, I invoke the right of the Philippines to get a share of the conquered territory during the Second World War because we were the co-owners of the conquered territory. And we were the main owners of the Second World War. The Philippines, the main conquerors, because we fought and won for America in the Philippines, whereas America was only in the sidelines. Oh, well, of course, there were a few thousand American officers, but 2 million Filipinos fought and died here in the Philippines. And according to the Americans, the Filipinos did most of the dying, did most of the fighting. So the Filipinos won that war, not America. And because we paid that victory with so much blood, life, sweat, and tears, I claim victory, part of the victory of the conquered territory won by MacArthur, our employee during the Second World War. I hope you who are listening to me will understand. This is my reproduction of the map of China. I will cut China into two. One will be considered conquered territory of the Philippines, and the other conquered territory of the United States of America. Now, Mr. Genting, if you are listening to me, one day, if God grants me the authority to run my country as full-fledged president, full-powered president, I will do something to reclaim half of China as a territory of the Republic of the Philippines. You can laugh now if you want, but I know I will have the last laugh. You know, ignorant people, they rise and fall. They lead countries like this guy. The most, I would say, the ugliest person I've seen in the world. But because of ignorance, he's a product of ignorance. Because of the ignorance of the Filipino people, he became president, and the Filipinos accepted him as president, even he was not really elected. This insane guy, because of ignorance, he became president of the United States because of ignorance. And Hillary Clinton, a very beautiful woman, a very brilliant woman, was relegated into the backwaters of history because the people were ignorant enough. The American people were ignorant about the fact that Hillary was the best leader for the United States at that time when she ran for the presidency. Now, you can have another stupid leader like this leader of Reagan because of ignorance. Tingnan mo ito. Yan, close. What is this lady doing? Nagpasiksi lang pero wala laman yung utak. And she wants to be president. Ito dito, nagpapalabas-labas man ang dila nila. Ano gusto niyang sabihin? Para ma-attracted yung mga Filipino sa kanya, mag-imagine ng may sex affair sila at ibuto siya. Wala. Ignorance defines the success or defeat of a nation. Defines the success or defeat of a person. Ignorance. So we have to have as much knowledge as we can. The only road to eternity, the only road to immortality is knowledge, wisdom, perfection. And perfection, what's the matrix of perfection? The matrix of perfection is knowledge, knowledge, and knowledge, and there can nothing be better than knowledge. That's why in the world, people who are knowledgeable rules the world. Well, of course, in the Philippines, the rulers are the crazy idiots like Pacquiao, Bongo, and many other idiotic persons like the wife of Villar, that pygmy, whose brain is empty. But she is rich, so therefore, since this is a moneytocratic government, where money rules, moneytocracy, that's money, moneytocracy. Well, the rich people are running the country, like Pacquiao, Villar, Nancy Binay, is uglier than whatever the natives in Mindanao. They're running the country. Why? Because they have money. The father, my classmate, Jojo Binay, she was the vice president. She was elected vice president. Why? Well, she has money. Enough money to have the house of his pigs air conditioned. That's how bad the Philippines is. How badly governed the Filipinos are. Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge is causing so much deaths during this coronavirus, I would say, chapter of our history. Many people are dying because of coronavirus. They are dying because we don't know how to cure coronavirus. Lack of knowledge. Why is this guy dead? The only answer is, well, they didn't know the proper medicine. Why is this guy suffering? Well, they don't know the way to happiness. Always, always, ignorance is the common denominator of human suffering, human problems. That is what I would like to drive tonight. A message to all of you, mga Filipino na mahal. Knowledge, education, that is the soul of progress. That is the roadmap to human glory, to human victory, to human perfection. Knowledge. If you support my presidency as true president of the Republic of the Philippines, I assure you that during my lifetime, everything that I do will be focused on giving the best education for our people, molding the souls of our people to the best we can, system that the Filipino people can afford, giving the teachers the highest salary that the nation can afford, because they mold not canvas, stone, or clay, they mold human souls. And of course, we will give very high salaries to our fighters, because they will defend every inch of this country. All of us will be given a chance to rise to the highest point of our destiny through the best educational system that the country can afford. So to repeat, all human sufferings, all human problems, all human miseries, all human loneliness is caused only by one thing: ignorance. And the only solution is, of course, Matthew 5:48. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Because when you are perfect, the heaven is yours. The stars is yours. You go beyond the stars. Ad astra. Sabi ni Moore, you go beyond the stars of happiness, progress, prosperity, eternity. I think I have spoken for 35 minutes already. It's time to close this message. And I wish to say thank you and good night.
Okay kay sir.
I alam ko ito sa Trinidad ko.
Yeah,
You want me to make a...
man of wisdom. Si,
Ha?
ay nag-comment.
Ano?
Man of wisdom daw kasi.